Let me touch on some of our investment criteria. I think you rightly started with stage of development, so I'll start there. So in terms of life stage, the Foundry is looking to invest in tech businesses that are post-revenue, so already generating revenue, and those that are either at Series A or Series B. So startups that have previously raised venture or angel type funding. Then in terms of check size, we're looking to make a minimum initial investment of around 30 million rand.
So they need to be at a stage where they can absorb such money and make returns on it, right?
Yeah. And so generally our investment translates to a 15 to 30% stake in the company, to give you an idea of the size of the business.
Welcome to the iAfrikan BYTES podcast. My name is Tefo Mohapi. I'm the editor-at-large and CEO at iAfrikan Media.
During the inaugural South Africa Investment Conference, which took place in Johannesburg on 26 October 2018, South Africa's Naspers committed 4.6 billion rand, which Naspers said it would use towards investing in South Africa's technology sector. And then there was an amount of 1.4 billion rand, which a company would use to set up Naspers Foundry, a fund that would invest in South Africa's technology companies starting in 2019. Joining me on this episode of the iAfrikan BYTES podcast is Fabian Whate, CEO of Naspers Foundry, to unpack some of the work that they do. Fabian, how are you?
Hi, Tefo. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. Perhaps for some of our listeners who are not familiar with Naspers Foundry but are familiar with Naspers work, what does Naspers Foundry do?
Yeah, so I think you correctly pointed out that Naspers Foundry is a 1.4 billion rand investment vehicle that's focused on investing in South African early stage technology businesses. Now, our mission is threefold, right? One, we are looking to make a meaningful contribution to society. Two, we're looking to accelerate the development of the South African tech ecosystem. And then lastly, we look to generate commercial returns.
And perhaps, you talked about the South African tech startup ecosystem. You sit in quite an advantageous position where you get to probably receive lots of applications from various startups. What trends are you seeing in terms of the sectors that these startups play and the type of funding they're looking at?
Yeah, so let me answer that by talking about one, the investments that we've made, and two, the investments we are looking to make, so those deals that are in our pipeline. So in terms of the investments we've made, the Foundry's made two investments to date. The first of those is SweepSouth, which closed mid last year. And then more recently, you would have seen we made a 100 million rand investment into Aerobotics. So SweepSouth is primarily a home cleaning services marketplace. So this is a two-sided marketplace that one solves the problem of busy professionals looking to conveniently source vetted domestic cleaners. And on the other side of that marketplace are the cleaners. So SweepSouth refers to them as Sweep Stars. And for the cleaners, the problem being solved is one having access to flexible employment that has reasonable pay attached to it. Now, the big attraction for us in SweepSouth was not only could you scale this business up by adding more users and more Sweep Stars, but you could scale into additional products. For instance, if you're comfortable sourcing your cleaner from SweepSouth, you'd likely be comfortable sourcing your gardener from SweepSouth. And then the business is also geographically scalable. A lot of the factors that make SweepSouth a hit in South Africa are also present across a number of other emerging markets. So that's SweepSouth. The other investment, our other portfolio investment is Aerobotics. So Aerobotics is an agri-tech business that is focused on delivering tree crop health and yield data to large-scale farmers as well as their insurers. And there's a number of factors that attracted us to that business, but I think one of the key ones is is the potential impact Aerobotics could have on food security, which is a major South African as well as global concern. So those are our portfolio investments. If I touch quickly on our pipeline, and I'm gonna limit this to sectors so as not to say too much.
No problem. That's understandable.
Within our pipeline, we're seeing a significant amount of opportunity at the moment, right? So the pipeline's extremely busy. So I'm going to touch on the three most advanced deals in our pipeline, and those are one, we've got something in the food tech sector. Two, which again touches on that food security theme. Two, we have a business in the EdTech sector, which we think will have a significant impact on improving access to education in the country. And then lastly, there is a fintech business, which again will significantly improve financial inclusion amongst the emerging middle class in South Africa.
Okay. Now, I mean, every fund, every accelerator, every incubation hub, etc., has their own criteria for investing in startups. What advice do you have for startups that want to be investable, or the startups that are approaching Naspers Foundry? At what stage should they be at? Or what should they have, or the criteria you use to invest in startups?
Yeah, let me touch on some of our investment criteria. I think you rightly started with stage of development, so I'll start there. So in terms of life stage, the Foundry is looking to invest in tech businesses that are post-revenue, so already generating revenue, and those that are either at Series A or Series B. So startups that have previously raised venture or angel type funding. Then, in terms of check size, we're looking to make a minimum initial investment of around 30 million rand.
So they need to be at a stage where they can absorb such money and make returns on it, right?
Yeah. And so generally our investment translates to I would say 15 to 30% stake in the company. To give you an idea of the size of the business.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Series A. Obviously, there's seed funding and all those stages that follow before that. For you specifically, for Naspers Foundry, I think you touched a bit on it in the previous answer, but for you specifically as Naspers Foundry, what does Series A represent in terms of the financials of the company, if you can touch on that, in terms of the type of traction you're looking at them having?
Yeah, so I think Series A and Series B are relatively vague concepts. So this is me talking very much from a Naspers Foundry perspective. I think one, right, you would have previously raised capital, right? So either from another venture capital firm or from angel investors, and this sort of speaks to our sourcing, right? In that we are generally sourcing investments from those investors, right? So that's the first thing. A lot of what we're looking at is coming from the existing ecosystem investors. Secondly, we'd hope to see businesses that are post-traction and already generating a few million rand, at least a few million rand in revenue. I would say that number is quite varied across the businesses we've invested in and or looking to invest in.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners, especially the startups in South Africa that want to work with or want to learn from Naspers Foundry?
Yeah. So outside of the factors I've already mentioned, right? In terms of sector, we'd like to invest in sectors that the Naspers Group has existing expertise in, and this makes sense because we can leverage that expertise in due diligence, as well as in adding value to the business post transaction, right? Which is something we look to do across all our portfolio investments. And then lastly, and this is extremely important, we look to back businesses that are high potential. Right? And when I say high potential, I mean you're either going to have a transformative impact on the sector in which you operate, or the business is internationally scalable.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Fabian. And I think you guys are doing great work given the climate we're in economically, and wish you all the best.
Thanks so much, Tefo.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to iAfrikan Bytes. Do check out our other podcasts on iAfrikan.com/radio. That is iAfrikan.com/radio.